Hey there, guys. Well, it seems that CynthiaG is back at it again. This time the message is, Dear black people, please break up with white people. As always, I've made every attempt to make the video as reasonable as possible. Please bear in mind the original was over 17.5 minutes long, but links to the original will be available in the description as always.
However, I'm not necessarily concerned about how harsh it seems. The truth is often very harsh, but the thing of it is it's still the truth nonetheless. And if I have to repeat this over and over in my videos until people get it, then that's what I'll do.
You know, I find this a little bit interesting because it's almost like she's treating her audience like they're retarded.
Very hateful. There's almost a void of morale and love in the world that we live in.
I think the words she's searching for here are morals, not morale. I think. I'm pretty sure.
The black community, we tend to have the lowest self-esteem of any species, I think now. I really do. When you think about the situations that we're in as a whole, when you think about systematic racism, when you think about the concept of white supremacy, when you go over history and you look at all the things that have been done to, you know, the black community as a whole, and then and it's still being done, and then
you know, this is a thing that I hear come out of the mouths of anybody who's fighting for something like this. They say, you know, systematic racism, the concept of white supremacy, and yet they never give any citations or fact of evidence to support their claims, ever. Ever, 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 ever. Is that against the rule? Is it against the rules of the regressive left to do that?
Look at our actions and our responses to it, a logical person can only conclude that we have to have the lowest self-esteem of any species. And that's because you can look at animals as well, and you can look at their patterns. You can see how animals respond to torture and to mistreatment at the hands of humans, and you can look at the possibility of an animal if you see them being victimized. Like take a dog or a cat, for example, a dog specifically. Look at how a dog is going to respond to not just the human that's been abusing it, but humans in general. You take a dog and you abuse it, you hurt it, you mistreat it. Let that dog get away and then see how it responds to everyone else. That dog is very, very, very unlikely to respond positively to humans as a result to what one human did to inflict suffering and torture and pain on that human.
You know, I mean, here's the thing. She's talking about the race of black people and then comparing them to dogs and making the claim that they have low self-esteem. Why are you comparing your community, your race, to dogs? Why would you do that? You don't think that that's damaging to people's self-esteem? You don't think that that's horribly inaccurate? That it's a contrived falsehood to try to make a comparison to a dog that doesn't have sentience and a human that does?
I plan to have a child, maybe more than one day. And what I want to pass down to my descendants and instill in them is the need for self-love. Because I'm going to teach my children their actual history. I'm going to teach my children, you know, how white people that you have to live with and coexist with have treated not only me as a person, but your ancestors before me and your ancestors before them. Because
I feel truly, truly sorry for the unfortunate soul who was foolish or desperate enough to breed with you, Cynthia. I really do. And you know, and she says it herself as well. She's going to teach this crap to her children, which is what a lot of people have been talking about all along, about when stupid people breed with stupid people to create more stupid people, and why it's a disease. Well, it's not really a disease, but why it is a big problem. It really is a big problem.
It's called a pattern. You can look at a pattern of actions and conclude, especially if those people don't really care too much about those actions, they don't see anything wrong with them, you can conclude that it's going to continue. So
what is your evidence to state that we don't really care about racism? the Northern Army that fought for your freedom was comprised of about 2.1 million people. Actually, just a bit over 2.1 million people. Now, the total at the beginning of the war was about 3.2 million people. And out of the entire war effort, there was about 180,000 black people fighting for their own freedom and for the freedom of their race. Which means that the vast, 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 vast majority of the people fighting for your freedom were white. The vast majority. Interestingly enough, there were blacks fighting on the south end of things, who were fighting to not end slavery. I can't imagine why they would do that, but it is proven that they were there, possibly forced, and that's wrong. And you know, then you get into the civil rights movement, and you talk about you know, the ending of segregation and the ending of it being illegal for interracial couples to get married or to be together, and there were an awful lot of people who were not black who were for that as well. And newsflash, a lot of them were white. I know, it's crazy. Oh, also, while we're on the subject, when you talk about our white Jesus, which I'm not Christian, so it doesn't matter to me, but when you're talking about our white Jesus, it's important to note that the abolitionist movement started in the Christian church. That's the movement that granted you your freedom. That's the movement that pushed things in that direction. They were the people that started the concept. So, yeah. Hey, that's the facts, man.
These are things that my children need to know. But despite the fact that our ancestors spent their lives literally in the horrid miseries of slavery, to the point that slave narratives can't even give you a clear picture of what your ancestors went through. They went through hell. They went through beyond hell. Your mind probably can't even imagine the evil demonic activities, and you probably just can't imagine the things that they went through.
Actually, having been in my not that distant past to a third world country that was also a combat zone, also a culture which is notorious for oppressing females, for example, and killing people horribly for all kinds of reasons, such as being, you know, gay or other factors. I would have to say that it's very likely that I have witnessed horrors that you can't even imagine, Cynthia.
And that's what I think a lot of people are not paying attention to. A lot of people in the black community, especially when it comes to interracial dating, I feel like we're very delusional. You know, we're delusional.
And here's where we can start to dissect Cynthia's real thoughts, her real attitude, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the things she's not telling you. According to a Breitbart article, black women marry outside their race less often than black men. Here it shows 9% compared to black men's 24%. However, more recent stats show that it's about 12 to 25. Or, it's fair to say, about half as often.
We look at everything in our history of what our ancestors went through, but we keep forgetting the people who put them through it. You know, men can look at it one-sided as if they want to. They can look at the man, white man, as one monster, and then they can tend to exempt the white woman from those actions.
This is where I'm actually quite happy that Cynthia made this video, because now we really get a look inside her head. Now we get to understand why. After all of the cajoling, after all of the anti-white rhetoric, after all of the hate speech that she's made, we now get to understand exactly why Cynthia believes the things that she believes. Now, what's most interesting about this Pew Research Center data is you can almost disprove CynthiaG's entire body of, quote, work just from this data alone. If white people were truly genetically recessive, and were intentionally marrying and breeding outside of our race, specifically with the intent on saving our genetics, with the intent on mixing them with the genetics of other races so that our genetics can live on, don't you think that we would be marrying outside of our race at a greater frequency than 7% across the board? This means that about 14%, only 14% of our total population of about 210 million are marrying outside of the white race. It's a very small percentage. Now, it's a lot of people, but it's a very small percentage of the overall, or a small percentage of the per capita. Compared to the black demographic, where a total of 37% of the population, which is only 48 million, a much higher percentage per capita, are marrying outside of the race. But more interestingly than that, black men are marrying outside of their race at a frequency of greater than twice the rate of black women. Now, if your entire population is only 48 million in this country, that means that with gender spread, there's about a 60-40 spread, which means that there's only about 20 million black men in this country. Now, if 25% of them are marrying outside of the race, that leaves a very small number left for a whole lot of black women. The result is going to be that there's a lot of black women whom, if they are intent on marrying a black man, are going to find a great level of difficulty in finding a mate. So, I can't help but wonder, is this really an issue of white racism? Is this really an issue of white, quote, recessive genetics for which there is no proof? Or is this simply a matter where certain people like CynthiaG, whom are intent on marrying inside their race, and though I have no problem with that, to find excuses for it that blame others for your own shortcomings or for the fact that others are not interested in you seems to be incredibly deceptive. It seems to be incredibly unintelligent.
We've literally placed, and I don't even like to say we because I don't like to include me in this, because I do not put white people on a pedestal. I think that they are actually lower than the ground that the pedestal is actually sitting on. So,
see, according to Cynthia, white people are lower than dirt. I mean, it can't be much more clear than that. And the fact that she has over 5,000 subscribers to begin with is just wow. Wow. It's a damn shame.
To me, it's very hard for me to say we when I think about this stuff, because I don't really, and I don't want to say that this is about all white people, because I do get that there is a very small fraction of white people that don't have that race is evil demonic mentality. But again, there's very few of them. And I simply cannot afford to overlook the vast majority of them that are evil, demented, psychopathic demons, simply because there are a few of them that might not be. Now, so if I say they, it's because I really can't associate myself with this mentality, because I simply do not have it. And that's why I have so many white people trolling my accounts, calling me the Black Hitler, calling me racist, asking why I hate white people. You know, the thing of it is you should ask your parents and your grandparents why they hated black people to the extent that they put them through all the suffering that they put them through.
No, you do not have white people, white supremacists trolling your YouTube. I've looked. You have people commenting on your videos, calling you out for the hate speech and the anti-white racist rhetoric that spews out of your mouth. That's why they're there, because you're a racist. And I think in a large way this is exactly the thing that you're counting on. I think it's exactly what you're looking for. I think it's your goal to inflame people into saying things they wouldn't normally otherwise say.
What do you think? You know, because a lot of people can sit here and mention and reference Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman and all of these people who actually contributed to where we are now. But what do you think that they would think about where our community actually is now? Because I don't think that any of them would actually be surprised by it. I think that they would actually wouldn't even want to be here. They wouldn't want to be here to witness the evil, the concentrated evil that is, any more than I do. Like, I don't like the way the world is now. It's disgusting. It makes me wonder who tricked me into being here, quite frankly. And so I don't think that they would want to be here anymore. You know, it's a lot of evil. It's disgusting. How would they feel about the fact that not even 50 years ago, black men and women were being hung from trees, they were tortured, black communities were destroyed, black women and children were raped and killed based solely on them being black, only to have black people now putting those very same people that tortured and oppressed us and our ancestors on a pedestal. What would they think of black people dating, marrying, and procreating with the very same group of people that saw us as 3/5 of a human?
Now, before I respond to your bit about MLK and Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman, I just want to say it sort of sounds like you're advocating that you want to commit suicide. It's not really the answer, Cynthia. If that's what's going on, I really do hope you seek some professional help. I do, despite the fact that you're a racist, hateful person. I certainly wouldn't wish death upon you. I just wouldn't. But anyway, we don't have to wonder what MLK would say. He told us. In a 1960 article, he said, "In a truly integrated society, interracial marriage should be legal. This is not a true problem since individuals marry not races. School integration has not led to an increase in such marriages. The basic aim of the Negro is not to become the white man's brother-in-law, but his brother." It's pretty definitive, I think. In Malcolm X's autobiography, he said, "I believe in recognizing every human being as a human being, neither white, black, brown, or red. And when you are dealing with humanity as a family, there's no question of integration or intermarriage. It's just one human being marrying another human being, or one human being living around and with another human being." That's pretty clear, isn't it? I mean, so you could try to go, oh, well, what would our ancestors think? What would the great leaders of our past think? Well, they told you how they think. They're all right with it. Not a problem.
They saw us as indispensable, as animals or pets. Property is literally what black people were reduced to by white people, and yet these are the same people that black people place on a pedestal and seek approval from on a daily, non-stop basis. And this is why I do not interact with white people beyond what I have to. Now, I do have some people that are white people that I actually like, because I've talked to them, I've gotten a feel for their mentality. I don't really feel like they're racist. Do I trust them? No, because I think that they still have it in them. Some people can suppress abilities all the time. That is very, very doable. It doesn't necessarily mean that because something is in your nature that you can't suppress your nature. That happens all the time. So, do I think that these white people that I actually like are not racist? No, I just think that they're suppressing their nature, and people can do that all the time. You can either suppress it willingly, or you can choose to suppress it with medications. I don't think there's a medication that will help you to suppress racism. I don't think.
And this is where I become extremely skeptical of CynthiaG's claims that she's involved in the medical industry. I don't buy it, right? Because anybody who's actually in the medical industry, they wouldn't say they wouldn't even make a statement about medication for suppressing racism. It just, as the significant other of somebody who does work in a hospital, I gotta say, this just wouldn't come out of the mouth of a medical person, medical personnel. It just wouldn't, you know. You know, my girl, when I told her about this and I showed her this bit of clip, you should have seen the exasperated look on her face. She was like, "What in the fuck is this lady talking about? What a psycho!" And I went, "Yeah, I know.
How is this any different than what was going on the plantation? If someone can explain that to me, I would really love it. When black people, and I'm going to leave this message, this video with this, so you can just ponder on this. When black people date white people, but complain about the racism they face, they are literally doing the equivalent of me dating my rapist while trying to get him convicted of rape. That's literally the same thing that you're doing.
I'm not even going to respond to that last bit. I just want it there so you guys can see it. That's the level of intelligence that I'm up against. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, throw me a like. If you didn't, tell me why so we can talk about it. If you want to discuss the topic, let me know. If you have ideas for next video or somebody else you want me to talk about, let me know and I will be happy to oblige. Well, I hope you guys enjoy. Bye.